Hello and welcome to the stream, guys. I want to do some quick housekeeping before we dive right into this topic, right? So let me first say that we are not under any circumstances giving you guys financial advice. So if we say we like a coin or I'm getting a coin or anything like that, take that with a grain of salt and you do what you do with your own money and behave like an adult, okay? Also, we may or may not do a Q&A at the end of this, depends on how long we go. This is going to be a very interesting topic, so we may be talking for a long time. So if we do a Q&A, please stay on topic, okay? That's all I ask of you. All right, with that out of the way, say hello, Apoc.
Hello, Apoc.
All right, of course. So to start with, can you explain what exactly cryptocurrency is? Like, how does the blockchain and all of that work, I guess, in layman's terms?
Well, okay, so the first thing I'll say is asking me to explain what crypto is like asking me to talk about fruit. So they all have something in common, but they're all very, very different. So that's the first thing I want to get out of the way. I actually don't like the word cryptocurrency. I think it's there are a lot of digital currencies, and I'll get into that. There are a lot of digital currencies and things called stable coins, which you know they do use cryptography to secure the chain, but they're not really. I wouldn't consider them.
Okay, we'll get into all of that. We'll have to get into the differences. So explain at least blockchain technology to start with.
Sure. Okay. So I can talk about Bitcoin, which is what's called a pure proof of work blockchain. What a blockchain is actually really simple. It is a distributed ledger of transactions. So you submit a transaction between one address, one wallet, and another to the Bitcoin network, and they're bundled into blocks by the miners. The miners then solve a mathematically difficult puzzle, and the first one to solve that puzzle for a given block gets rewarded the amount of Bitcoin that's currently being rewarded per block. I think right now it's around 6. I actually don't recall the current reward. It's around, I think it's 6, or it might be 3 by now. In any event, so you get a certain amount of Bitcoin as a reward, and you also get the transaction fee for and on the Bitcoin network, the transaction fee tends to get spread out across different miners. But if you mine a transaction successfully, you get the coin and the fee. So that's the basic notion. So what happens is, the reason it's called a blockchain. Now remember, a block is just a bundle of transactions. It's just think of a spreadsheet. All Bitcoin is a giant spreadsheet of transactions, dating all the way back to the first transaction. And blocks are just rows that are being added to that spreadsheet on the bottom. That's a block. Let's say it's 10. You can look this up to see the exact numbers. I'm not going to get into that. So let's say it's 10. So you have 10 transactions. And then when that block gets solved, you get the Bitcoin reward, and you push that, and then that becomes a legitimate piece of the ledger. So now everybody knows these are real transactions, and they're honored by all the members in the network. So that's basically how that works. It's an incentive system to process the transactions by rewarding crypto as a condition of doing the work to verify them. That's what proof of work is. That's what Bitcoin basically is. And so the reason it's called blockchain is because every time you do this, you create a block, and the block has a little signature on the bottom that links to the previous block that was solved cryptographically. So you can verify. So in other words, you can verify transactions cryptographically all the way back to the first one. So that's why it's called a blockchain, because they're chained together cryptographically. That's pretty much it. That's how Bitcoin works. It's the other thing to remember is that anyone can be a Bitcoin miner. You can just nail one up tomorrow. You just have to run the code. And in theory, you can become a miner. So this isn't, the Bitcoin was designed to be totally decentralized so that anyone could participate.
And what are the benefits of the coin being decentralized?
Well, no one can, I mean, no one entity can, in theory, affect, nobody can take, can change the ledger without everyone or a majority agreeing to change the ledger. In the crypto world, this is called a 51% attack. You can look that up if you like. Basically, the way this works is when you're a miner and you submit a valid block, everyone else has to agree up to, in theory, 51% or more before the block is considered actually valid. So that's pretty much how that works.
All right. How about the number 2 coin, Ethereum? What makes that different from Bitcoin?
Well, Ethereum is a much more rich. It's actually an environment. It's not just a currency. So Ethereum has proof of work and something called proof of stake built in. So everything I just said about proof of work is true for Ethereum, except they also have proof of stake, which means, what that means is that you as a miner can only mine the amount of transactions that are reflective of the amount of coins you have. So if you have 1% of the total Ethereum supply, you can legitimately mine 1% of all transactions and get rewards for it.
Okay.
So they did that as a way to ease off on the power requirement, because with Bitcoin you can create an arbitrarily large cluster to mine more and more and more coins. It's not limited by anything except for your ability to nail up servers. With Ethereum, it doesn't matter how many servers you nail up. You have to have a certain percentage of stake in order to mine, in order to use that hardware properly. If that makes sense. So
Gotcha.
they kind of put a ceiling on, in theory, what you can get out of the system without participating in the system. So what this does theoretically is does two things. It brings the energy cost down for mining, because smaller miners actually, it's actually doable. But what it also does is it incentivizes people to hold coins on the network. It incentivizes them to hold the coins individually, so it in theory, prevents the coin from being centralized into too few hands.
Okay. So now I got one for you that you can really expand on. Why would someone want to put their fiat currency into this this crypto thing? I mean, I know myself, when years back when Bitcoin first started, I looked at it and I was like, this looks like a pyramid scheme. Like, this
I
is
thought the same thing.
Literally just like the title in quotes of my stream here. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was a pyramid scheme, and I was just like, F that, and now I will tell you, I hold quite a few coins. I have quite a bit of money tied up into crypto, and I do have, some sort of faith that it's valid. So
yeah,
why would the average guy want to get involved in this?
Well, if you don't like the fact that central bankers can just inflate your currency and make it worth half as much as it was worth last year, if you don't like the fact that um, your fiat currency is essentially susceptible to all kinds of attacks by various central banks, including the Fed, what this system essentially what Bitcoin is, what they're trying to be, is a decentralized. Well, we'll get into that later. Not all of these currencies are decentralized, by the way, but Bitcoin and Ethereum are, and they're essentially like a decentralized bank. So essentially, it's a decentralized bank whose currency cannot be inflated. That's what it is. It's essentially a reliable ledger. There's no cigar-filled rooms where people are changing ledger entries, where they're just, oh, here, you take a bunch of these coins, and because you're a reliable institution, we're going to just mint a bunch of coins and give them to you so you can responsibly use them in the market. There's none of that. It's entirely public. All transactions are public, and in terms of what they are. And if you are concerned about being able to save money and have that money hold its value, then currencies, currencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum might be something you'd want to look at, because these things have huge adoption rates now, which is precisely what a bank. I don't know if nobody really knows this, but banking systems they're only as strong as their adoption rate, right? I mean, banks survive on customers. If they didn't have customers, they'd close. So the more customers that these systems have, the more resilient they become, the more like a bank they become. And yet there's no bank master. So if you want to take a chance that this is going to go the long haul, which personally I think it will, then it's a way for you to store value that isn't going to be affected by the Federal Reserve or the Bank of Germany or whatever. I think of crypto not as an asset. I think of it as a secure savings.
And here's more for you to expand on. Before we started the stream, you mentioned that there are many, many different types of coins. So
yeah.
Give us some examples and describe like some of the more popular ones, because there's only, there's a lot and we'd be here all day probably.
Well, I can talk about the four main categories.
Yes, that's what I would like.
Okay, so there's Bitcoin and all of its derivatives, which I just talked about. Bitcoin is a pure proof of work blockchain currency. And it's totally decentralized. Then you have Ethereum, which is a mixture. It's proof of work, proof of stake. And it's also an environment. So Ethereum actually has a virtual engine on it. You can do all sorts of things with Ethereum. You can also do, like most, I don't know if people don't know this, but there's a huge number of cryptocurrencies that are actually just Ethereum tokens. So there's a smart contracts on Ethereum where essentially it's just code as contract. And a lot of currencies out there are what are called ERC20. You can look that up. ERC20 contracts, which essentially what you do is you put a bunch of Ethereum behind this contract and it activates it. And under the terms of the contract, you get so many tokens, and those tokens are now your currency. You can do whatever you want with them. So there's all the ERC20 derivative tokens that are hanging off of Ethereum. Thousands of them, actually. Because it's actually the easiest way to create a crypto is to create an ERC20 contract. Because you're already using the power of the entire Ethereum network to make it work. So so Ethereum isn't just a currency; it's a whole system. It's like a financial backend.
Yeah, the more I learned about Ethereum, the more cool I think it is. Like I'm really happy that I bought some of that.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, just if people are interested, one of the most interesting entities on the Ethereum network is something called the DAI, which is DAI. DAI is a stable coin that's hooked to the dollar, but it has no assets backing it. It's not backed at all. It's algorithmically held at $1.
Okay. So what is this? You're gonna have to describe what a stable coin is for.
A stable coin is a coin that's tied to an external asset in one-to-one. So it's always worth whatever that asset is worth. It's, in other words,
Making it stable.
making it stable relative to the asset. So that's one of the big classes of currencies. So so there's Ethereum and all the smart contract. Like there's another one called Cardano, which is a little different. It's actually centralized, not decentralized, which is I don't like. But the reason they do that is for other reasons. I'll get into that later as to why you might not want to centralize something.
Okay.
But Cardano is another one that has smart contract capability. Everyone's trying to develop smart contract capability because they realize how powerful it is. Now, a stable coin like the DAI, well, forget the DAI. You asked about stable coins. So in general, stable coins are tied to currencies. So you have USDT, which is Tether, and it's in theory tied to the dollar. A lot of controversy around that, but then there's USDC, which is another dollar stable coin. So it's in theory tied to the dollar. So if you have one USDC, it's worth $1 US, essentially. The same thing is true for the DAI, but DAI isn't controlled by anyone, and it doesn't use a weird mechanism to control its value. It basically, you can read about it. It's an interesting mechanism. But basically, DAI is minted by people putting Ethereum into these big contracts, and then DAI is minted. And the reason you'd want to do that is because when the value goes to a certain level, the DAI is worth more than your Ethereum is worth. And so you'd lock up this Ethereum in a big vault. You get a bunch of DAI, and then you sell it on the market. Supply goes up, price goes down. See what I'm saying? And then the opposite happens. If the value of DAI drops too much, your Ethereum, you risk your Ethereum being confiscated by the bank, so you have to pull it out and end your DAI contract. So those coins get burnt, meaning they go away, and then the price goes up because the supply goes down. And all of this is organic. It's controlled by the algorithm. There's no human entity controlling it. And the DAI is a very stable dollar coin. So that gives you an example. Stable coins are mostly tied to currencies. You can tie them to anything, though. You could tie a stable coin to coffee. Like you could decide that you had coffee coin, and it was always worth 1 cup of coffee, 1 8-ounce cup of coffee, as averaged across whatever the coffee market is.
Or however the cost of coffee beans would be at £1, or
right, or something.
I get what
like
you're saying.
Right, you can link coins to commodities through various means. So that's what stable coins are.
You brought up the term smart contract. Can you explain to any viewers we might have what exactly a smart contract is?
Okay, it's actually really simple. You guys know what contracts are, which is you've got basically a list of terms and agreements, right? And then at the bottom of that list of terms and agreements that are all outlined, everybody signs their name, and that contract becomes enforceable by a third party, aka the government. So if the terms get violated, you go to court, hopefully you get it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the enforcement mechanism of a normal contract, is the court and the language used in the contract, plus contract law precedent, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's how we normally do contracts. It's actually really complicated. The reason they call them smart contracts is not because they're tricky or cunning, it's because they're smarter. All the terms and agreements are set out by code, which means there's no arbitration. Either if this happens, then that happens. If that happens, then this happens. And there's no third party involved. It's all defined by code and conditions when the contract is instantiated. Now you can decide in a smart contract to add something with third-party trust, because objects in the real world, like property, like physical property, require third-party trust, because you can't exactly put 10 acres of land into a computer and have it verify it, right?
Right. Yeah.
You can't even trust necessarily cameras. There's been a lot of suggestions as to how to do this automagically, but no one's really cracked it yet. So smart contracts are generally only for digital assets, things that can be detected and measured and decided upon by a computer only, with no human involvement. So that's what a smart contract is. That's it.
Okay.
Pure code, terms and agreements, absolute, no arbitration, done. Once you instantiate it, it's done.
Okay, so we have talked about two different categories of coins, I believe. Was maybe a token a part of that, or is that something different? Like what's different between a token and a coin, if that makes sense?
Well, the term of art, token, usually applies to coins that are on side chains, like these ERC20 contracts I talked about.
Right.
So that's usually called a token, just like
Gotcha.
right. And then there's also a coin is usually the chain native coin, whatever coin it is that powers an environment, a chain. So in Ethereum, it's Ether. It's ETC, right? For the Ethereum chain, it's the Ethereum coin, Ether. And for Bitcoin, it's BTC. So that's the coin. The token would be not the native coin of a chain coming off of a chain. By the way, people have probably heard of something called an NFT.
Non-fungible token. Yeah.
Non-fungible token. Most of those are made with Ethereum contracts. They're called ERC 721. There's various different agreed upon standards for making them. But basically they're whole tokens that can't be divided. They're called non-fungible because they can't be made into pieces. You can only trade the whole token. You can't trade pieces of it. And that was designed, right. So that was designed to link to, the original idea was to link it to digital art. So that you could buy a piece of digital art using an NFT.
I think they're doing it with actual tangible items as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I'd always wondered about that. I mean, I had a general idea of what they were doing with that. It sounds silly though for people to put a lot of money into, digital art. Maybe I should create some NFTs for my thumbnails for my videos or something. Make some side cash off of that or something. That'd be goofy.
Good. You just have to find an NFT and how much it costs to mint one. So
right.
I mean, the thing about NFTs is it's a bit weird. You're essentially not really buying. I mean, there's not a thing that you're buying. You're buying what you're buying is a receipt that says you own the thing. So you're not really buying the thing, because the thing isn't actually inside the chain. It's somewhere else. So NFTs are kind of weird when they're applied to real things outside of the digital world. People are still kind of skeptical about them. So yeah, we talked about Bitcoin and its derivatives. We talked about Ethereum. We talked about stable coins. And the last one, the last subcategory I want to talk about is privacy coins. Privacy coins are coins that are specifically designed to anonymize transactions. So you can't really track, like they do it through various methods. People can look this up. The one people are probably most familiar with is Monero.
Yep, Monero. I was about to say that.
Right, but there's also Zcash is another one that's very popular. And a number of other coins that are attempting the privacy game. So that's a very important thing to know, is that unless a coin is specifically a privacy coin, there's the pirate coin, but don't know if people are interested in that, but there's the pirate coin, which is apparently extremely private, which is interesting that they called it the pirate coin.
Yeah.
So you want to look into that if you want. So, for example, you can. Well, we can talk about transactions later. Like those, that has to do with market exchange, and that's a different thing. But yeah, so basically, what I'm trying to point to here with all of this conversation, I barely scratched the surface, by the way,
Yeah.
is that it's a very diverse, complicated field. You cannot, you should not, I should say, you should not think you know what you're dealing with when you get into it. I mean, following other people who you believe really know what they're talking about is a good strategy. Otherwise, actually understanding the underpinnings of what gives these things value and where they might go, incredibly complicated. Because these coins all have relationships to each other as well. So beyond the coins, each coin, each chain, each token chain, each subchain, all the other stuff that's happening around these things, there are the relationships that people have between these coins. So people use this coin for that coin, the other, they drop, they'll bunker their wealth in Bitcoin, and then some people will bunker in Bitcoin and then spend on altcoins or other things with altcoins. Some people will bunker in privacy coin because they don't want anyone to know how much they have. It's a very diverse field. It's basically like, to really understand this, and believe me, this is just the beginning of my journey.
I know, and it's funny because you know so much, and yet you're like, I've barely learned anything. I've barely scratched the surface.
Yep, I have barely scratched this. I'm telling you, yeah. And if you let me put it this way, if you're not totally and utterly confused at some point each day when you're researching this stuff, you're probably not doing it right. Because there's a lot of weird stuff around this. Basically, this stuff is all game theory and cryptography that is trying to create an alternative to the traditional banking and finance system. That's the real answer to the question, what is crypto? That's what it is. And there are efforts inside the crypto space to blunt that with coins that are being propped up and used by large institutions. And they're promoting those coins. But because those coins are all they're all centralized, they're all controlled. So it's the same thing. In other words, if you get into one of those coins, it's no different than using fiat. It's exactly the same thing. So if the coin isn't decentralized, I don't personally consider it cryptocurrency. That's not technically true, but if it's not decentralized, I don't think it's crypto, because the whole point of crypto, as instantiated with Bitcoin, because of the first financial crash back in 2009, was to create an alternative to the central bank system. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, no, on that note, we got Jaguar in the chat here, and he's bringing up some interesting stuff that I wanted to get into.
Okay.
Not too long ago, my portfolio was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And as I look at the prices right now, they're pretty shit, to be honest. This is probably a great time to grab Polkadot. Polkadot is down to 15, which is huge because it's expected to go up a lot during the bull market. So what Jaguar brought up is that the banks are actually trying to manipulate crypto.
Yep, that's true.
Either to take it down entirely or to find a way to control it. So what is your take on all that?
Well, they're absolutely doing that. I mean, anybody who looks at anybody who knows anything about the dark murky war of decentralized finance knows they're heavily attacking every decentralized crypto out there, especially Bitcoin. They're trying to take. The thing people need to realize is people with trillions of dollars at their disposal who do not want Bitcoin to exist because it removes their power. They really don't want it to exist. They want it to go away. They could only depress the price. They couldn't bring it all the way. They couldn't crash it really. And they're trying to hold it through using all sorts of shenanigans with futures contracts and incessant attacks in the decentralized finance market. But they're not succeeding because there are too many people who are holding and not selling. You can't drive the price down if you can't sell lower and lower.
Yeah. Oh, that hodling. I'm definitely hodling, man. I'm not selling low.
Yeah. No, don't. I mean, like, look, the last time they tried this, people don't, and I didn't know it at the time, but I had suspicions this was what was going on at the time. Was I believe in 2017, 2018, I forget which year, where the price went all the way up to 19,000 or something in that range, and then crashed to like 6,000. I think it was, I forget what year it was, but it was a few years ago. That was enormous. That's a hell of a lot big. That's an enormous drop from like 19 down to 6. And yet now it's at 30 plus in just a couple of years. People are being lied to. They're being fooled because if you just look at the average price, if you ignore the peaks and dips, if you just look at the average price, Bitcoin always goes up. And the reason is because it's still being mined and it's still being adopted and people are holding. So I have no idea where it will go price-wise. Some people say it can go to $1 million. Some people say it'll go to 100,000 by the end of the year. I have no idea.
That is the what I have heard is that during the bull market that Bitcoin itself is expected to go to 100,000, and Ethereum is at least conservatively supposed to go up to about 10, which would not hurt my feelings at all. And I'd like to see some other coins explode too, but
there's a difference between somebody who's doing this as a trader and someone who's doing this as a person who wants to store value. If you're in this for the long haul, you would have already won. If you bought Bitcoin 5 years ago, you wouldn't care. The price is at 30. Well, I bought it at 1,000. That's fine for me.
Yeah.
Right? That's 30x in 5 years. Like, I'd say that's pretty good return.
Yeah, that's an excellent return.
Yeah. I mean, the point is people are, because it's so volatile right now, because all the adoption is still coming on board, because people are still flooding into the market, and because of the huge uptick in interest in the beginning of this year, the price just shot through the roof. It went way beyond any reasonable expectations. And there were people warning about it. It's like, hey, it's too high. Leave it alone. But well, it came back down. It came back down to just up above 30. And everybody's like, oh, it amazes me. Bitcoin is dead. Crypto is dead. It's going to. If you bought crypto 5 years ago and now you're 30 times up, how is it dead? People are only being encouraged to think in terms of small time segments. They're having the classic Wall Street okie doke run on them, where all the analysts are screaming about how bad something is, because those people who are yelling about how bad it is have actually gone short in the asset. So they need it to go down for them to make money. And that's essentially what's going on right now in the crypto markets. The people who are, they're shorting futures, they're doing all kinds of things to try to manipulate the prices. And what amazes me is they've only managed to tank it to a little above 30. That's just shows you how resilient Bitcoin is. These are multi-trillion-dollar entities that want Bitcoin to die.
Yeah.
They want it to cease to be.
Well, the powers that be love control.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, really, at the end of the day, the only power they have is the economy, the economic power. The rest of it is all fueled by the economic power. So if you remove their economic power, they're dead in the water. They can't really do anything. That's why it's an existential threat.
Yep.
Now, I'm saying all of this. I'm not saying I know that all of this is an existential. It is to them. They view it as an existential threat. And I said earlier, I thought this was kind of a Ponzi scheme. But then I realized what he did, what people were doing was creating a decentralized banking system. It wasn't just a Ponzi scheme. It was a decentralized banking system. And they were creating it out of whole cloth. So yeah, there were a number of catastrophes along the way, but here we are. And fact is, there are, like over $1 trillion in equivalent dollars in the crypto markets right now. That's real money. So.
Oh, I mean, yeah. There are some. What was it? There's a South American country. I
El
think
Salvador.
It's official.
You know what the president said extemporaneously as a sort of joke. He said, "We'll mine it with our volcanoes." Like they're gonna like put in geothermal and mine Bitcoin with it.
That's funny. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, Jaguar. Jaguar's talking about inflation. I mean, we have in America, they printed off trillions at this point.
Well, yeah.
And we're going to feel the repercussions of that inflation really bad in I think the near future, and
we already
years,
are the housing
years to come.
The housing market's already seeing it.
Yeah, and fucking food and gas, and it's just it sucks.
Yep.
And so I'm hodling my shit because I know that's going to keep its value.
Well, yeah. I mean, people have to remember. There isn't some magic transmutation machine that converts dollars to crypto. You have to give dollars to somebody who has the crypto that you want, who wants dollars. And then you have to trade the dollars for the crypto. It's not vanishing into some machine. There's a person involved who wants the dollars or the euro or whatever the currency is. So, if you don't think, the problem is people are thinking about this in terms of how many dollars things are worth. Oh, I'm going to take profits. Well, how are you taking profits? They're taking them in fiat. And I'm like, unless you spend that immediately, in a year or two, you've lost money. So, like I said, for me, crypto is like a savings account. It's not. There are some that are designed to be transactional. That like Cardano is going to be designed to be. There's a number of coins, Solano, a number of coins that are actually designed to be currency, that are designed to be used to transfer value from one thing to another. So that's different.
Yeah. There are chain pairs and things like that. I mean, like the guy from my thumbnail, Cultivate Crypto. He teaches guys a sort of a system. Like, I think it's take only about 20% of your portfolio, and that's where you're going to use to make your trades, but hodl the other 80% for the best coins such as Ethereum, Bitcoin, and others. And that way, if you make good trades with that 20%, then excellent. But if you lose it, then you only lost 20% of your
if you want to be
portfolio. So and that's what he teaches. I mean,
Yeah.
you can just do what you're talking about. Just keep it for value. Keep it as a savings account, if you will.
Yeah, essentially, what it allows you to do is be your own bank. And that, I mean, really, because nobody controls your currency. I mean, no particular entity does. No one can just zero out your account or steal your money. So it protects you from government, actually, government interference.
Yeah. I can say that a majority of my Trump and Biden bucks went to, if it wasn't tangible items for my new career, it was crypto.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I immediately put that money to use because, as you said, it's pretty much otherwise it's wasted. It's gone.
Yep.
Yeah. If you're just, that's the one thing not to hodl, I guess. Is
no, don't hodl cash. Don't hodl cash. Do something with it.
Right. Yep, because it's
don't hold
definitely losing value.
That I would say don't hold more than maybe 6 months of living expenses in cash. Personally, but it's up to you what your risk tolerance is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I like to have a good nest egg personally, but that's just me. But I'm also, not afraid to spend money when it's something worthwhile, like repairing my vehicle. That's what I did today. And other things like firearms. That's always something I'm willing to spend money on. I haven't done a stream, or I can't do streams with guns. Never mind. I haven't done a video about the new one, but that's off topic. So, all right. There was other stuff you wanted to talk about regarding crypto, and you have to forgive me. It kind of slipped my mind. I usually stay on top of this stuff.
Well, crypto world is super deep, and
we are only scratching the surface. But there was a couple of things I found interesting because I'm trying to, if you hadn't noticed, I'm trying to kind of lay this out for the average guy, normal guy that probably hasn't put any money into crypto, and I'm trying to get them to at least understand it because there's a lot of ignorance.
Maybe we should answer that question. I mean, like, why do I no longer think it's a Ponzi scheme?
Yes, let's get to that one.
Well, because I realized that what was happening wasn't. I mean, certainly people were abusing it over time, but generally speaking, what was happening wasn't a Ponzi scheme. It was people trying to create a new decentralized banking system. Like I said, that's why it basically, the elements of the crypto universe have all the same elements of banking. In decentralized finance, you can get loans, you can do all sorts of things. Like ridiculous. I mean, decentralized finance is its own animal. It's a huge. There's like $500 billion in more in decentralized finance right now. No barriers to entry. You just have to have the coins and access to the platforms. So in DeFi, you basically have access to the tools that the big boys have always had access to. That's what DeFi is. And so decentralized finance. They're creating, I mean, essentially, I shouldn't say they, because there is no they. What seems to be happening is the birth of a decentralized banking system, banking and finance system. And as long as it's able to not die in the crib, as long as it can defend itself against the attacks and not be killed outright, it's going to be unstoppable because it's just more trustworthy than the traditional institutions. Would you want Bolivar or Bitcoin?
Bitcoin, without a doubt.
You can say that for most currencies. I mean, for me, I would rather have Bitcoin than dollars. Like, period. For the last most of my life, actually. So yeah, it's basically the birth of a new um, social and technological fabric for the exchange of value. And there's a lot of people trying to take advantage of it. There's lots of scammers. There's lots of crap going on. But if you steer clear of that and you stick with,
Oh yeah, there's definitely some scam coins and some
Oh, yeah.
shit coins out there that
1,000. You can get
Yeah.
1,000x with this new altcoin. I'm telling you, it's really a thing.
Doge was fun for
Yeah.
a few minutes, and then I mean, if you're still thinking like, if you're still rubbing your hands together thinking Doge is going somewhere, then I got some oceanfront property
Yep.
to sell you in Nevada. So right off the Atlantic Ocean.
That's something to point out too. If people are actually looking at the whatever coin they want to buy, if it's not Bitcoin or Ethereum, you don't want to look at the price of the coin. That's irrelevant. What's relevant is the market cap, which is the price of the coin times the total supply. So that's the important number to look at when you're looking at coins. So you want to rate the coins. So whatever coin has the most, right now it's Bitcoin, has the most market cap is the most valuable and most stable coin, generally. Tether, yeah. People, if you want to use USDT or Tether, you're gonna have to look up. There's a lot of controversy around that. I personally wouldn't use Tether just because of the things I've learned about the corporation that's controlling it. So if I was going to use a stable coin to, like, for example, if I wanted to turn my dollars into something that I could trade on an alternative exchange, that's something else people should realize. If you're trading with dollars or euros or whatever on an exchange, they're required to take all your information down and record all of your transactions. It's not private, not even a little.
So you have to really be careful which coin you get into.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, personally, it really depends on what your risk tolerance is. You can buy crypto off exchange. It's just risky.
Yeah, I will say that. Like as a crypto noob like me, I primarily, but not limited. I don't just limit it to this, but mostly off of Coinbase, which is fucking shady, by the way.
Yeah.
For any of you listeners, it's a good place to start, but you have to be careful. And I've heard of, different examples of, like, say a coin is really taking off, and then Coinbase just decides to basically shut down so that people can't take advantage of, these new events. Things like that, shady practices. Yeah.
Robinhood. Yeah.
Yeah. It's exactly like that. As a matter of fact, they did something just like that with the Robinhood and the AMC and
AMC, GME, and Nokia. Yeah.
Well, it was a GameStop too.
Yeah. GameStop. Yep.
So. Yeah, so I would say definitely.
What you want to do is you don't want to use public exchange. You want to look into the alternate exchanges that don't require KYC. They also don't allow you to transact in fiat. You have to have crypto already.
Yeah, so a lot of sites are starting to get away from that, but there were some such as, I believe, Kraken for a long time. You basically had to transfer crypto from somewhere else into Kraken. I think they've changed their policy on that, but don't quote me. Like I said, I'm just
there's always Uniswap. I mean, there are other.
Yeah.
If you're going to get into alternative exchange trading, like, let me put it to you this way: one way to do this would be to buy up a shit ton of stablecoin on a regular exchange. then trade it for a privacy coin, and then move all that privacy coin out into another privacy coin.
Well, another thing
So-
people are doing that we
then
haven't
you can
talked
play with
about is storing their crypto on these
Hard wallets.
devices, hard wallets. They're
We haven't gotten
very,
into that.
yeah, they're very similar to like a USB storage device. That's what a lot of people are doing as well, and that's why they're saying that they lost their crypto in boating accidents and things like that. So
Yeah.
it's pretty funny stuff.
Yeah, no, hard wallets are the way to go if you want to protect your money. From what I understand, the best in class for a lot of reasons is the Trezor one. So I would recommend, like, when you use Cultivate Crypto, I like, because he's more technical. I watch Coin Bureau. Coin Bureau is another one, and I think he's very good. He's very transparent too, and he has a number of videos evaluating all sorts of things, including hard wallets and exchanges and non-cust. What you want is another thing is something called a non-custodial exchange. You want to look into that. That means they're not actually holding your money for you. You're just trading on the exchange, and they're taking a cut for the trade. So there are ways to do this. Yeah, but that all gets into really murky territory, and it would take forever to talk about it. But it's possible. The point is this. I know enough now to know how I can take a fuck ton of money and melt it into a bunch of privacy coin and have it never be seen again if I wanted to. It's actually not that difficult to do. So if that's something you want to do, look into decentralized finance, look into privacy coin, look into exchanges like Uniswap, which do not have KYC. And you'll be able to figure it out. You'll be able to figure out what you can do and for whatever is legal in your country, of course.
Yeah, there's a lot to navigate, especially if you're a noob. There's
a lot.
Which website am I thinking? There's one exchange that's not too bad, but they just don't want to deal with the U.S. So they have one website for the U.S. and then another for everybody else. Binance. That's right. Binance.com. Yeah. So which you can get around by using a
VPN. Yeah, but then you have to have a bank account in a non-U.S. entity, which you can do.
Yeah. Or can't you just send crypto from
you can do that
website,
too.
Just crypto to crypto? Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's how I did with Kraken. That's how I bought some Polkadot before. Now Polkadot is on Coinbase, by the way. So kind of crazy there.
That is crazy. Yeah, the main take, if you're a layperson, if you don't have the wherewithal to get into all the technical aspects of this, then I would spend a whole bunch of time doing real research and being very careful to avoid anyone who's pumping anything, anyone who's overly optimistic about anything. That's why I like Coin Bureau, because he always tells you the downsides of any particular statement. And then pick a couple of them, and then just use them as stores of value. It's the simplest thing, essentially using them as a savings account. If you want to do trading, that can come later as you learn more. But this is a nascent field. Like, there are so many things happening in it, and it's so weird. Governments are always trying to mess with it. So it's hard to tell exactly where things are going to go. I think that by and large, I think the decentralization effort is going to win. But I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like. So
Okay, I see. You beat me to it because I was going to ask you. That was one of my questions for you, is where you saw this going, but
I
you've
think it's
already
gonna,
answered it.
yeah, I think it's going to win because the reason I say that is because I was I'm a sort of OG internet guy, and I spent most uh, of my previous career building stuff on the internet, building pieces of the internet in the early days, and the internet is something the government has been trying to get a handle on ever since it started getting out of their grasp. And they haven't been able to. I mean, they've only been able to do it top down through large platforms, but now what's happening, everybody's making new platforms. So they're trying, but I don't think it's like whack-a-mole. I don't think it's possible. I think the technology is just too resilient. One of the guys who created the ARPANET, which was the precursor to the internet, named John Postal, he said, if they break it, I'll just build a new one. And that's pretty much how a lot of people who know anything about how this thing is built feel and have always felt. So people can try to break it, but it specifically was held decentralized for a reason. Most people don't know that the internet is basically decentralized. And that's why it's so resilient. So I think because I watched the internet and was part of the internet growth and the sort of genesis of it, and now the internet is basically dominant around the world. Like, it's pretty much everything at this point. I think the crypto ecosystem might have a similar promise. That's my 10,000-foot view. Because the internet happened and has succeeded, even with all the bullshit, it's still succeeded. I think we can expect similar things from cryptocurrency.
Right. So the internet will always be, I think, that double-edged sword, and as it has been most of our lives.
Yep.
I think there was a time things were better, but once the powers that be realized the power of the internet and the things that they could do with it, that it became, what it is today, and we're having to deal with the consequences.
Well, yeah, but they don't. What they don't understand is that it only takes 3 guys like me to set up a resource that's outside of their control. So that's what they didn't realize when they tried to take over everything. They ended up taking over large entities like Yahoo, Google, Facebook, co-opted them. But which everybody recognizes is really awful. But now you have Rumble and Odyssey and Library and all the alternative platforms that are being built and maintained by people who have a serious commitment to free speech. So, I mean, good luck stopping it. You're not going to be able to. And there's going to be bumps in the road for sure. But let me put it to you this way. If you airdropped me into China and I had my kit, I had like my laptop kit with me, and I had and I was able to get an internet connection of almost any kind, I could have free and clear internet access probably within a day, maximum 2, and the government of China would not know I had done it. And I'm not exactly the best hacker in the world. I mean, I know stuff because I helped build all this stuff. So I know how to get out. I know how to get around in ways, and I know exactly how detection works. I know how people use pattern matching. I know how they use aggregate metadata. I know how they use basically I know how all the firewalls work. I know how all the intrusion detection systems work and reverse detection. I know all these things because I helped install them, build them, architect. But there are a lot of people out there that know this stuff. Anybody with a CISSP, anybody with a security certification should know enough to do what I just said I could do. So they're not as all powerful as we think they are. Because once you allow anything out, you allow everything out. And once you allow anything in, you allow everything in. And all it means is one person with some knowledge can exploit that, and you probably won't notice if they know how to hide their traffic. So I'm based on all of that is why I think cryptocurrency, because the people working in the cryptocurrency space are super bright. They're like nosebleed level IQ people. So, and they're serious about decentralization. So I think it has a good chance. Yeah, a really good chance.
So, have you covered everything you wanted to cover? Because I have a question that would kind of take us in a slightly different direction.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I just wanted to, you and I have talked about this before, but what kind of coins, for the audience, of course, you and I have talked about this again, what kind of coins have your eye right now and why?
There are two altcoins that I like right now. One of them is Raven Coin, and the other one is called Verus, Verus. Raven Coin is I like Raven Coin. I like them. Okay, I like both of them because they're super distributed. Raven Coin is essentially, what Raven Coin is essentially Bitcoin with smart contracts and other features. So it's essentially a more fully featured Bitcoin chain with their own, and they're using a different algorithm and so on and so forth. But it's basically, it's a lot like Bitcoin in terms of how the internals work, but they've added features that mean you're going to be able to create, objects, smart contracts, non-fungible tokens, native non-fungible tokens, and things like other things like incentives for transfer payments to be low, which means whenever you execute a transaction on the chain, it should be very cheap to do. So what they're trying to do is create a coin that is it has native NFTs, which means which you know what that means, right? Well, we just talked about that. And it has the Bitcoin in some sense. Also, Raven Coin is not yet half mined. So it's still like more than half of it is still to be mined. So the values keep going up. So I like it. The adoption looks interesting. And the utility of it looks interesting. And what you have to do when you look at these things is, what's the utility? Is it useful? Well, people care. That these things don't matter if people don't want the coin for some utility reason, right? So the functionality of Raven Coin is very interesting and unique, and I think it has a good chance of going gangbusters long term. And you can still mine it. So you can join in the party if you want to. So that's Raven Coin. Verus is a weird one. They're still getting off the ground. They've had some problems, which isn't surprising. And the value of it isn't very high. But I find Verus interesting because of the way it's structured. They're not using a blockchain. They're using what's called Merkle Mountains, which sort of imagine a two-dimensional chain, right? Sort of like imagine a bunch of bricks with multiple connections. Like, oh, I know, a genealogy tree. You know what a genealogy tree looks like? A family tree?
Yeah.
That's pretty much what a Merkle tree is. So a Merkle tree looks like a family tree. Merkle mountain means you can have any number of connections below each node. So instead of blockchain, which everything is chained in a chain, literally one block connects to the next, this is using a different strategy. So in theory, the Merkle mountain strategy should allow transactions to be very fast and very cheap as compared to any other structure. So that's really interesting. The second thing is that they're very serious about privacy. The third thing is they're not Nazis about privacy. They're actually creating the possibility to have side chains which have different characteristics from the main chain, so much so that you could link side chains to various external coins and assets directly, thus creating a trading pool without an exchange in between. Does that make sense? So you could actually, so Varus is actually designed to be able to trade directly for Ethereum through a trading pool without any exchange in between. So they're working really hard on transaction speed, transaction density, and security, privacy, and their sidechain capability is really fascinating. So I find Varus interesting from a technical point of view, because I think it could have a lot of utility if they're able to make it work. Those are the two that I'm interested in right now, that I find interesting. Because I get interested in these coins not because of how much they're worth,
By their utility, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm interested in their utility. Like, what can they do?
Well, and their worth may change in time, and it may grow in time.
Yeah.
So, and that may be because of their utility.
Correct.
So, I'm going to try to limit this to about an hour and a half, if possible. So we've covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And let me say one thing.
Go ahead.
Just to make this totally clear, I'm a piker. I'm a journeyman. I've only been looking at this for like 6 months. So I'm very technical. I know a lot of things about a lot of things when it comes to computers, network engineering, and coding. But as far as cryptocurrency goes and cryptology, but as far as the actual substrate of cryptocurrency goes, I'm totally a journeyman. Like, so this is just my opinion. Everything I say, please look it up, research it. There is so much more to this than we're even able to talk about. So get out there and look.
Yeah, we just definitely only scratch the surface here.
Yep. And I'm not trying to pump the coins either. I think,
Right.
That's what I said. If you want to get advice, that's why I advised Coin Bureau on my side. And I know you like, what was the name? What was the name of the one you like?
Ethereum. I like.
No. The channel.
Oh, Cultivate Crypto.
Cultivate
I thought
Crypto.
You were talking about. Okay, yeah.
You like Cultivate Crypto. I like Coin Bureau.
I'm going to look into Coin Bureau. There are lots of good dudes. There's one guy. His channel's called Dollar Cost Crypto.
Yeah.
He seems like he focuses on the lower end, like newer type of stuff, but I haven't seen enough of his material to figure out exactly what he's about. So I'm not going to make any judgments, but he seems to know. He seems to be pretty well informed. So just another recommendation. But
cool. Okay. I'll look into it.
Yeah. So if anybody's here, you want to join the panel, as long as I know who you are, we are going to open Q&A, but I'm not going to throw the link out there unless there's some interest in the chat, someone that wants to come on. But we got about, I'd say, another 20 minutes, and then we're going to wrap this up. It's starting to get late. I'm over here in the east, so we're heading towards midnight, and I like to sleep. So was there anything else you wanted to cover that you haven't had a chance to really talk about or segue into yet?
Well, I mean, I will say, as a meta point, I'll say, I don't think that cryptocurrency is the big boom. I think decentralized finance is the big boom, and that cryptocurrencies are the things that will power it. And decentralized finance is super, super complex. But I mean, but let me put it to you this way. Imagine that suddenly just handed you a Bloomberg terminal with no user manual, and you just had to and you just had to learn by watching. That's pretty much what the DeFi world is. So the next, the thing that really has a potential to absolutely just destroy the traditional marketplace, it's decentralized finance, big time.
Yeah, well, you can tell. I mean, they're definitely trying to crush it, or they're trying to discourage people. Just with it, the market was projected to just boom, in May.
Yep.
And then it just took a shit, which isn't necessarily bad, as you said. I mean, it sucks for me because I like seeing my numbers go up, but as you mentioned earlier, before that, it gives people who aren't in it right now a chance to get into it and not like destroy their bank account trying to get into it. Because I mean, some of these really good coins, let me pull up Coin Market Cap. Some of these good coins that I think are going to go somewhere in the future, such as Polkadot. Polkadot's $15. Uniswap was, well over 40 before this crash, and now it's down to 17.
Well, but Uniswap, the thing about this is what I mean by you have to know the details. The thing about Uniswap, as you know, is that it's a coin that's powering a DeFi platform.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily going to be high cost, like the high price, because it's the thing that's being used to power the platform. So the demand for that coin should only relate to the demand for the platform. What happened in early this year was that a ton of speculative money came into the market, and the whole market went up because everybody just wanted in on something. So all the numbers went up, most of them did, and then all of a sudden.
Well, let me get into what you were just saying about Uniswap. It's not that I think that, like, I don't see Uniswap becoming, like, say, the next Ethereum, for instance. I know it's going to be limited, but it is going to go up significantly. I mean, they were projecting it to go 100 plus at the end of May. That's when they were figuring it was going to grow like that. But I don't see it ever like trying to. It's never going to like be a competitor to Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything like that. But realistically,
just so you know, Uniswap is an Ethereum token.
Yes, I'm aware. It's a part of the Ethereum. It's a part of a network. Yeah, I know about that. I'm big on Ethereum and coins that are, powered by or related to Ethereum.
Okay.
I'm a fan. I didn't, like I said, I didn't believe in it too much at first, but I've been made a believer, and and it's just one of those coins. I like Litecoin. And Litecoin was doing really, really well. And then, of course, that took a shit. Chainlink, they say that's got some solid potential. Like, I don't expect most coins to explode.
They're trying to scare the ducks out of they're trying to flush ducks out of the brush.
Yep. And everybody's just hodling and saying, fuck you.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they're trying to do that so they can buy up more of it, so they can control more. I mean, they see where this is going. And they don't want us to have the only access to it. God forbid the poor should not be poor, And I imagine they consider anyone who doesn't have at least $10 million liquid to be poor. Yeah, I was skeptical of that I was skeptical for a while, but then I really started looking at it and I realized that I had been wrong, that it was something entirely different than what I thought it was. That this really was a true decentralized banking system, which had more utility than the existing banking system, which is fucking hilarious if you think about it. The fact that you can do NFTs, you know what else you can do with NFTs? You can create contracts. You can create, I shouldn't say contracts, you can do that with smart contracts, but you can actually enshrine things. You could enshrine a document as a canonical version of something. So you could actually use NFTs as a verified substitute for county records and deeds, right? Like there's so many people don't understand this technology and this approach has the potential to completely eliminate all of the ancillary functions of the bureaucracies of their governments. So, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So that's the thing. That's the thing that really blew me away when I started really looking at what was possible with these various technologies. And when I realized you could do records and deeds, and you can basically do any kind of record keeping and have it be verifiably original, that eliminates the birth certificates. What about birth certificates? I mean, every single legal document you can think of can be stored as an NFT or on a blockchain with privacy.
It's yeah, I mean it's hard to imagine, but yeah, I mean, I guess that is possible.
Yeah, of course it is. It's already happening.
Speaking of,
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of possibilities, do you think it would be possible for like this stuff to kind of completely overshadow fiat one day, to where like you're usually trading some sort of crypto, if you will,
The government
over fiat, and fiat's just like an option as opposed to, you know, the primary source right now? You think that would ever come to pass?
I don't know. I can say this.
A possibility.
I think it's a possibility, yes. Well, I mean, look, like I said, El Salvador just made it legal tender. First country in the world to do that. There's a Pacific island, I forget which one, that accepts any crypto for debts and payments. Doesn't consider it quote unquote legal tender, but it does accept crypto for debts and payments directly. There's a number of smaller countries that are doing this because they realize it'll allow them to get out from the under of the boot heel of the IMF. So that, if anything, what will happen is third world countries and smaller countries will adopt it first, and then they'll steamroll the hell out of everyone. All of a sudden, they'll get rich, and everyone else will start realizing that, wait a minute, the average wealth in El Salvador is higher than it is in Kentucky. How did that happen? And so, you know, I don't know how it's all going to go down. I don't know exactly if, but it's a possibility, yeah, for sure. And governments certainly think so because they're scrambling to produce, they're called CBDCs, or central bank digital currencies, to get out ahead of this before people no longer associate crypto with them, no longer associate currency with them mentally. So they're trying to get out ahead of this with their own digital currencies that, of course, have none of the features that decentralized crypto has. They're not only aren't they private, but they can put any arbitrary information in it. They can literally track every single transaction you make. So every penny you spend with CBDC is tracked by the government. Every penny. So if you want that, go for those. Personally, I'm staying away.
Yeah, something's got to change. That's all I know.
Well, it already is changing.
You know,
That's
Well,
why
I'm saying
that's why they're freaking out.
something had to break.
Yes.
It gives me hope. It does give me hope. I mean, some people were pretty nihilistic these days, and
Yep.
I'm not taking the white pill, if you will, but I'm positive. I try to stay positive as best as I can. Negativity is no good, and I think crypto is a positive thing. Personally, this is my personal opinion, y'all.
Well, cryptocurrency and the one used is essentially it's essentially an economic nuclear weapon.
That's a interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah. Well, look, you're sequestering $2 trillion in value away from the banks. $2 trillion, baby. Out of I mean a lot, but still $2 trillion. That's measurable. And it isn't in their control, which means they can't mess with it. They can't make it go down or up very much. They can't drain it arbitrarily. They're locked out of it. So that's why I think the nuclear weapon analogy is a good one, because it's essentially starving them out. It's like, I guess it would be better to look at it more like a siege weapon, like as if you're going after a castle and you're trying to starve the people inside out. Because that's kind of what this is doing slowly.
And so you don't think this is going away? There's no way that you can crush it.
I don't think so.
Despite, so they have
now without a kinetic world war. No.
So they have impotent rage towards crypto.
Pretty much
is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have countries like China outlawing it, but how are they actually going to outlaw it? I mean, how do you stop people from trading in Bitcoin exactly?
Some countries are trying to outlaw it, but still, that's still not going to be enough.
But how do you stop it? What's the enforcement mechanism?
I mean, you're a tech guy. I mean, is there a way with the internet?
Like I said, if you know what you're doing, they can't. If you know what you're doing, they can't stop you. All you need is a VPN. Just a VPN. Nail up a VPN to some country that does allow it, and you're fine. Just like you said for Binance, if you want to use the European version, you just need a VPN, and to not trade in fiat, just send crypto over. They're losing control because things are too decentralized already. They're already losing their ability to project power. It's very weird. I mean, none of this is happening like I expected, but then I guess I should have expected it wouldn't be what I expected.
Well,
I think it's going to win in the end. I don't know what that's going to look like or what's going to happen along the way.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is going to be like, it's seen as right now as sort of a fringe thing that, fringe people are into. Because if I go out in my daily life and I bring up the subject of crypto, most people are, what? Now, if you say Bitcoin, they might have a general idea of what Bitcoin is or have heard of Bitcoin, but they don't have any sort of understanding of exactly what it really is and its utility or anything of that sort. And I see it as, at least I would hope, that it becomes over time more normal, that everybody at least kind of gets into it a little bit. I mean, we got websites. There's one website that's kind of like a video type website, and how you use it is it actually has its own crypto.
Yeah, well, that's how Library works.
I think that's it. I think that's the one I'm thinking of.
The Library Odyssey has built-in crypto now.
Yeah.
Library and Odyssey both work, and there's a number of others. I don't know what the hell BitChute was thinking. That guy was first out of the gate, and early on, so many people were telling him how he could not only monetize it but also do it all with crypto, and he never did it. And now he's starting to lose market share to these other guys who have. So I'm not sure why he did that. But anyway, yeah, there are. I would say Odyssey and Library are the two ones that I would look at. DLive is not real.
Yeah,
Do not-
it's
do not
not
do DLive.
real.
Do not do DLive.
I have a
founders,
DLive, but
the founders
I don't really
hold,
use it.
Yeah, the founders hold 75% of the currency.
I see. So, gotcha. Yeah, because they have their own little currency on DLive
Yep.
too. Yeah,
Yep.
You're right. Huh. Well, I mean, this isn't probably the most popular stream that we've done. Usually, the ones I do with your like big hits, but it is like, Thursday, and it's kind of late if you're at least in the East here. But this has been a really, really awesome stream, Matt. Like, it's just that I find really interesting topic. And as you mentioned, we've barely even fucking scratched the surface of this shit. But my hope was to have you help me sort of help the normies, if you will, or the average dudes who don't know anything about this topic. And
do not fear the crypto. As long as you're in it for the long haul, you should be okay.
Well, even if you want to learn to trade and you can make money off of it.
Yeah, just don't risk more than you're willing to lose.
Right, exactly. Please do not take this like crazy and put your life savings into crypto or
it's
something
a very
like
volatile
that.
space.
Please
right
do
now.
not do that.
Yeah, it's very volatile right now. So unless you're going long term, if you want to play some trading games, that's cool. But you're going to have to know a lot about it in order to have a chance of making any gains.
Yeah, I mean, if you do anything, it's like when I go to the I don't really like to gamble, to be perfectly honest, but I have been known to go into casinos every once in a while. And what I take is I have a set amount of money. Dude, I'm going to go to this casino and I'm going to enjoy myself. And if I make more, if I leave the casino with more than that set amount of money, then awesome. But if I lose that set amount of money, then okay, I was prepared to lose that. And you have to go into the crypto game with a similar attitude. However, what I do recommend is that you do some research. You look at some of these channels that we've talked about on here, and you listen to these guys. I'm not necessarily going to tell you to sign like the Cultivate Crypto guy actually has a course called Crypto Mindset, and he is charging about $700 for that. However, most of the guys that I've encountered that did that, like, they said they had more than made up for what they paid. They already made that money back. So I haven't really heard of anybody coming out of that program and saying it sucks and don't do it. You're right. So that says something to me. Now, am I personally, like, I'm kind of I mean, I'm like Irish and English of heritage, but my dealings with money are stereotypical of another ethnicity, if you will, if you catch my drift. So I don't think I'm paying no $700 for that course. Nothing against the guy. Like, I like him and I watch his YouTube and stuff like that. And I know what I'm learning off of him is limited. But, that's just me. And same for you guys. Just be smart with your money. I hope this stream has like educated you guys and made you rethink things. I mean, there are currencies, cryptos that are almost like penny stocks. If you
and
want
have
to
all the risk, all the same,
all the same risk. If you just want to try it out, if you just want to dip your toe in the water, that wouldn't be a bad start. But I have to warn you, when I started getting into it and I started seeing those gains, it almost becomes an addiction, man. That's how I am. I love it
Yeah.
when the numbers go up.
Everybody
Same
does.
thing with my bank account.
Everybody does that.
And I'm like,
Everybody
fuck, okay. So that coin's doing good. I kind of want to buy this coin. It has some potential. Maybe I'll buy, 10 of those, and it just keeps going. And
I would suggest that unless you know mathematics and you're doing technical analysis on the potential of various coins, you probably don't know what you're talking about.
let's just say I have a good gut instinct.
No, that's fine. I didn't mean that instincts aren't important. I'm just saying, for those of you out there who trust your gut and make money, maybe so, maybe not. The safest way would be to do what they call dollar cost averaging.
Yeah.
But but again, this is a huge subject. Like, you can't if you get some information on a fundamental aspect of a currency and you think it's going to go up, and then you invest and it goes up, fantastic. The point I'm making is you don't know when that luck's going to run out. Unless you're doing some kind of technical analysis or risk limiting strategy. Or you're hodling. So my advice would be try not to get swept up in the emotion. Because otherwise, you might come out on top, but then you might not,
Yeah. So with that said, you got any closing statements before we shut her down?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll just say again, crypto is a vast, complicated, deep world. There's a lot more to it than even the people on these various channels will tell you. Every time you peel back a layer, you'll find there's another layer underneath that you didn't know about. I don't know that much about trading, so that's why I always tell people, be careful. I'm not really into trading as much as I'm into the technical side of it. So for me, it's about learning about the utility. And and that's a huge, enormous can of worms. So this is a big enough, more complicated enough, rich enough thing to have specialties. Put it to you that way. So if you think you're just going to educate yourself on crypto and know all the things, that's not going to happen. It's too big already. You want to focus on what you're interested in and learn as much as you can about that before you dive in. And that's what I would say.
All right. Well, Apoc, I definitely would like to thank you for coming on and talking about this. This has been a really good show, in my opinion. Other people might not be as interested in the topic, but in my opinion, this has been a great show. And some people in the audience have expressed that they think this is interesting as well. So I appreciate you guys for coming by. And we may have, this may be one of those streams that people come by and watch later.
Considering the time.
Considering the time, and we got kind of a late start, but and it's a Thursday. So, all right, guys, with that said, we're going to shut her down. Again, thank you all for being here. Thank the guest. And if there's anything else you want us to talk about in another stream, we'll see if we can't get Apoc on to talk about that. And if there is, comment on the video when this is set up. So we'll see you guys later.